Hello everybody, Johnny Flyer, and I am back on the bench with this 312 American Flyer, the Pennsylvania Railroad style. This is not a smoke intender. The smoke was actually in the engine, so I believe this makes it a K5, although I can go back and check again. But here it is in all its parts, and some of you may remember I had to take the old wick here out of the smoke box, and so that's what happened here. The nichrome wire had burned through the horsehair. I think this was still horsehair when they were using it. And so, using Mr. Barker's suggestion, I went with this angel hair stuff. And I'll show you the bag I got here. I hope I'm not violating any copyrights. But so the angel hair, it's kind of a fiberglass-like material that you can see has similar properties to the old horsehair, and is supposed to keep the fluid about as well as this old horsehair used to, without all the, I'm sure, the animal regulations that went with go with modern day manufacturing. So what I did was I cut the nichrome wire, and you kind of see it here. It's a little scrunched up. I had to do some testing on it because what I wanted to do was make sure that I kept it within the ohms rating that's supposed to come with these with the smoke intender. So the nichrome wire is actually supposed to have a ohms rating of somewhere between 35 and 50. And so I cut it down until it was exactly at 50, so that I knew that if I kept all the wire, I would be okay, because I still have to run it back through the top here. But if I needed to cut a little bit off, I could get away with that too. So I wanted to give myself a little bit of wiggle room without violating the ohms that this is supposed to have. So Mr. Barker suggests that, and of course the old, this is the new cardboard box that's going to go in the smoke box here. So Mr. Barker suggests that we use a nail. So I chose a nice smooth one like this with no, none of the, I guess, grooved edges to make sure that they catch here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it here per his suggestion, and I'm going to wind it, making sure that we do not cross over any of the nichrome loops over each other, otherwise that'll cause it to burn through. And then we'll put a little bit of smoke fluid at the ends here, and then we'll run it through. What you might be able to see down there is the bottom of the smoke box. We'll run it through. We'll make sure that it does not touch any of the coil does not touch any of the sides of the cardboard box here, and hopefully we'll get a little bit of smoke out of this thing. So again, unfortunately, I don't have an ability to record myself doing this. I'm working on that, but for now, you'll have to believe me that I'm actually working on this, and I'll give you an update here in just a bit. Well, hey folks, I got it all put back together now, and to be honest with you, there just wasn't a stop point where I could stop and take some pictures, because, well, let's just say, so in his book, Mr. Barker says that the process can be a little messy. Or maybe it's his video, but I think my experience tells me that Mr. Barker underestimates just a tad. The process is, if I can give you a scale, somewhere between cleaning a 60-pound dog that won't hold still, kind of messy, and toddler with a toothache, kind of messy in a shower. So yeah, somewhere in there, kind of messy. Like, you know, things went everywhere, and angel hair doesn't exactly hold together very well. But anyway, got it obviously all back together here, and got it rewired, put the solder on. So just some things to point out to you that I worked on here. So the biggest things that I've learned is, if you can kind of see here, so the nichrome has been wound around the each one of these contact points here, and that's because nichrome can't be soldered. So the solder is simply just there to hold your mechanical connection that's there. So that's one here, and I know that's ugly, so forgive me, but I hate doing solder. So for me, that's pretty darn good. And here's the other one. So they wrapped around, tested out at 40-ish ohms when I ran the test. But now I've got it back on the bench here, all plugged up, wired up, and now the test. it's safe to say she smokes. So I do worry a little bit though. So I spent a lot of time making sure that the contact, or the microme wire, when I wound it around the angel hair, did not cross over, because they say it'll burn out. So I am worried. The smoke here is a little bit higher than what I'm used to on some of my other engines. So I'm gonna have to kind of watch it, because if it burns itself out, obviously that's no good either. But anyway, I got it back on. Obviously the smoke box is connected. Everything's running really well. So I'm going to hope, being a method, that it's hooked up right, and that's just a consequence of using a different material that I'm not used to, and that all the other tests seem to indicate that it's good to go and ready to get back to work. So I'm gonna probably finish up for the day here, and I still notice that I need to get the white walls cleaned up just a little more on these, a little bit more. I'd like to thank Dave from Dave's American Flyer Trains for his comments and for his help, and of course for his videos that have really helped me with my attention to detail on these trains. But this is one thing I realized is you need to do a better job cleaning these up a little bit, just to get that newer appearance. If you saw my last video, you probably saw we got the smoke unit working, and it's really smoking away nicely. My only concern is that it's producing so much smoke. Honestly, I'm a little bit worried that it may be coiled a little too tight, but the ohms read good, so I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that it's just a consequence of a job well done, and it's not going to burn itself out. So the rest of the engine looking really good and running very nicely now. So you may notice I've done a rewiring job here, and I didn't use the traditional cloth wrapped, I guess, wires. This was what was left, and they had been clipped, and whoever I guess done some attempted maintenance had used the soldered in, and they just kind of clipped off all the wires at the end. In fact, here they are over here. You can see they were kind of a mess, a little bit old, certainly nothing to keep really. These are the wires that I replaced them with, and so basically equivalent. They may be a little bit more robust, but just something to push enough power through, and stick with the gauge that they recommend in the book. And so rewired, resoldered, and put all the pieces back together. You may notice that I went with a different type of screw here. That was because when I was trying to get the reversing unit off, it was absolutely frozen on the chassis here, and would not come off. And you could probably still see that there's some metal pitting here. Thanks to some advice from a friend who watches these videos, went with a different style of black. Actually I stuck with the flat black because I thought that looked better than the satin, but I'm going to try that out here shortly on the body with the satin finish, and then I'll grab a couple of the decals and we'll get that done. But overall, I'm really happy. Got everything shined up here. Everything's been cleaned off and repainted. Got off as much of the rust as I possibly could. So it's looking like a really nice engine. Not quite brand new, but good enough certainly to get on the bench and test, and then we'll do some touch up to it. So I'd say we're probably at about, I don't know, 75% of the way there on this engine. But here comes the test. So we'll give it a run here. Everything running really nicely. And of course, we're going to keep an eye out for our smoke unit here, and there comes the smoke. Oh yeah. So voluminous clouds of smoke for sure. And man, oof, well, good thing I don't have a smoke detector in here. But you may have just noticed, and I've been noticing this too, so a little bit of smoke leaking out through the seal here. Now I used the one that came with the train, and what I'm worried about is that the seal may be bad. I have cranked these screws down as far as I am willing to. I'm not going to go a whole lot further, but the seal looked to be pretty good. So I'll keep an eye on that, and if necessary, I may make some contacts with a couple of people and see if I can't find an answer to why I'm getting so much smoke kind of leaking out through here. But certainly very happy with the condition of where everything is right now, and definitely happy with where this engine is. This one also is probably going to stay here at home. Just too much on this that doesn't look like OEM parts. You know, if I'm gonna sell it back out as a restore, I want it to be as close to OEM as possible. This one I want really is more for the kids, so they can play around with it and get the enjoyment out of another steam engine that we can continue to play with, and allows me to put some different engines in the rotation that aren't simply the 2 or 3 that we've got right now that are kind of up on the bench, or sorry, in the normal mix. So happy about where things are at this point. And I think you know, next step is we'll start to do a little bit of paint work on the main body here. And you see it's a little bit dinged. The decal a little bit worn off, so I'll probably just do a fresh one on there. And I went and I took the brass fittings here. I took those down. What I'd like to do, what I've seen done in the past is, guys, put a little bit of color in here. So I'll put green and the lights there just to make it look a little bit more realistic. You can see if you're getting kind of close here, you can see there's definitely some wear here, corrosion on the metal, on the die cast. So I'll do a little bit of work on that, try to flatten it out. And overall, though, I think this will come in pretty good. And you can still see there's a little bit of rust on some of the handrail here, but we'll get that fixed up and cleaned up. But I think this will clean nicely and be ready to roll. What I am worried about, though, is the body here for the tender. So you can see definitely some pitting and some metal loss. However, it does have all the stairs on it, which is positive. But this is definitely the worst side, and I'm going to have to get inventive with this because you can't, if you can see, the rivets have corroded right off over here. So it's supposed to be rivets going right up here, and those are all gone. Chewed into some of the side here and definitely pitted nicely up to here. So I'm going to start trying to take some of this paint off very carefully because I don't want to ruin the die-cast rivets. And see what I can do here. I may try to go the, I don't know, maybe some JB Weld or Bondo. I don't know. Probably not Bondo. That doesn't ever come out well. But we'll give it a try and see if we can't do some metal filler here, flatten it out. That's going to take some work and a significant amount of sanding. So we'll see how much time and effort I really want to dictate to or put into this. Not real sure, but that's the condition of the tender, and she's looking pretty good. And you can see I'll do the same on the back side here. I'm going to put some red into these brass lights here. Now, unfortunately, the ladder was not in one piece, so I'll have to get that replaced or come up with an approximation of that. But on the inside, looking good. If you can kind of see, it's still a little bit of mess in there, but I think this was the one that I took off, and there was a nest of some kind still in there, so that was an adventure into itself. But anyway, that's the status of this particular engine. Very happy, and looking forward to getting it back on the track and trying it out. So next update, hopefully I'll have everything painted up and ready to go for another track test. So this is Johnny Flyer signing off. Thanks for watching, everybody.